Another shocking and sad example showing how serious Florida's heroin epidemic has become.
Grandma's out here buying dope with you. It's not good.
A Volusia County grandmother accused of bringing her 2-year-old grandson to a drug deal. Deputies say the heroin she bought was laced with fentanyl.
That's definitely enough to kill you. So I would say it's definitely probably 4 to 5 times as lethal to a child that's 2 years old.
Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood fed up with yet another child taken to the scene of a crime.
You want to hurl expletives and say, you know, what are you doing? You're a scumbag.
And we have got Deputy Billy Levin. You heard him there in the video, as well as Sheriff Mike Chitwood here with us this morning. Good morning to you. It is always good to see you, and it is good to see you again as well. I have to tell you, when I first saw this video, shock. I'm a parent. I have young children. And so, you know, to imagine what this grandmother did for me is just so surprising. Just walk me really quickly through what was going through your mind.
Just very sad to see it. You know, we see them in a high drug area and then to have a child in the car, it just kind of brings a whole nother element to the game. Yeah. And then once you do the traffic stop and you see the movements that she's making and how nervous she is, and you can realize that there's more to the story than just a simple traffic stop. And at that point, you realize there's a lot more to it.
How do you comfort or take care of a 2-year-old who's out at a drug deal?
Oh, we actually get a lot of great training. I don't have any kids of my own, no family yet at this time, but you know, it's just so sad to see it. I mean, that kid has no reason to be in the area that he's in, no reason to be in that car when she's doing the type of things she's doing. And
I think the other thing, Sheriff, that we have to keep in mind is, you know, this was laced with fentanyl, right, which is extremely, extremely deadly. And one of the things you said is, had that child even touched it, had they even, and kids are always putting their fingers in their mouths, right, this could have turned out much worse.
Absolutely, and Bill pointed that out to the grandmother. You know, he said to her that a little granule left in that bag, had the 2-year-old touched that bag when you were done using it, your 2-year-old would be dead. But I think what you see here is what is going on in America today. And, you know, last week we had the father who took the 4-year-old out on a burglary spree. You know, we've had the parents found dead on I-4 with their kids in the back of the car with an overdose. It is becoming, it's becoming the signature of what's going on with the opioid crisis in America.
And I guess the question is, and I know this is just a huge question that has no answer this morning, but what do we do to curb it? What do we do to stop it? Because and we're looking at the mugshot of the grandmother there, when you are on drugs, you're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking in your right mind. And so where do we go from here? What do we need to do? You know,
it's a 3-legged stool. You have to have tough law enforcement. You have to crack down on the dealers and the supply that's coming in. The second thing is you need to have educational component. And the third thing is you need treatment. Yeah. Because a lot of these folks that we arrest, they're not criminals. This may be her first arrest. The people that are overdosing in our communities, they're not criminals. They're people that have a disease, and we need to put the same amount of money into the treatment end as we do on the law enforcement end.
You know, I'm almost afraid to know the answer to this, but how often do you see something like this?
More often than you would think, but it's just such a sad situation. I mean, just the kid has nothing to do with the situation. It's so hard to see somebody like that in a car like that with a lady that obviously doesn't really care too much for him.
You know, one of the things that the sheriff said, though, is that at the end of the day that somebody like this grandmother may need more help as opposed to jail time, right? Because she obviously has an addiction. But at the same time, you know you've got to do your job. She's got to go to jail. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the bottom line. How difficult is that when you know, listen, you know that she's facing addiction, but at the same time, she's breaking the law?
It's a very, very...
It's a fine line, isn't it? Yeah.
Walk on. The main thing in this scenario is just take care of the child. I mean, what happens with her is an afterthought as long as we get the child taken care of at that point and have, luckily, some other family that was local able to come pick him up. That was our first priority.
Sheriff, we have to wrap, but I do want to end with this. If somebody is facing an addiction right now, or if a family member is watching who has a family member facing addiction, what can they do? What are some resources?
They got to get to, in Volusia County, Stuart Markman is our treatment center. But the person has to want the help. If they don't want the help, they're not going to get it. They're going to continue on that spiral down. And I think the one thing we should all take away from this is the collateral damage in the opioid crisis is the children.
Absolutely.
That's the collateral damage.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. It was great to meet you, and always good to have you on the show.
Pleasure.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Bob, let's send it back over to you now.